And click the button.
Okay, awesome. So we are all recording and we are ready to go. So Fred, you're welcome to kick it off. For those of you joining us in the audience, we do have two presentations tonight. So Fred will go through and announce the first one, but if you are waiting for the Kruger Pond, that is the second presentation. So just hang tight for that. Sorry, Fred, it's all yours.
No worries. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I'm going to call our Design Advisory Panel meeting to order. And I'm not sure if you all have presented to this group before, so I'll go ahead and kind of give you the ground rules. We'll introduce ourselves. Planning and Zoning will introduce themselves, and then we'll ask that you all introduce yourselves, give you about, hopefully no more than 15 minutes to make your presentation. Planning and Zoning will have some comments from their side, and then the DAP will ask questions and make comments, and then we'll make motions, vote on the motions, and wrap up from there. So having said that, I'm Fred Marino, and I am the chair of the DAP panel. Bob?
I'm Bob Gorman. I'm a planner and landscape architect and vice chair of the panel.
Larry?
Hi, good evening. My name is Larry Quarrick, and I'm a landscape architect.
And Dan?
Dan Lovett, civil engineer.
I think that's all we have from the DAP tonight, as far as I see.
Ethan.
Oh, is Ethan? Where's Ethan? I don't see you. Ethan?
You're on mute, Ethan.
Can you hear me? This is Ethan.
Can hear you now.
I'm an architect. All right, Ethan Marchand, I'm an architect.
Great, thanks, Ethan. And I failed to include the fact that I'm also an architect. So having said that, I think what we'll do is next we'll have Planning and Zoning introduce themselves. Anthony?
Anthony Cataldo, Chief Land Development.
And Nick.
And I'm Nicholas Haynes. I'm Planner 1 with Department of Planning and Zoning, Land Development.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, great. So we'll turn it over to the presenter, if you all wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, and then you can go right into your presentation. Like I said, try to keep it to no more than 15 minutes.
Sure. So good evening. I am Jen Bass. I am with Bowler, who is we are the civil engineers on the project.
Great.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Adam Baker with Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. We are counsel to the petitioners on the project.
Yeah, my name is Anthony Williams. I happen to be the senior real estate manager for Dashin.
Jason Belt. I'm the construction project manager for Dashin. Excuse me.
Is that your entire team?
Ted
Yes.
Connolly is here as well, who is the architect with BCT. I believe he had to call in. I'm assuming, I see him as a presenter, so I'm assuming he can still participate.
Anthony, can you verify that? Is he able to?
Yep, he is in there. He just unmuted himself, so he should be able to speak.
So Ted, if you can hear us, we would need you to present your project, introduce your project first off, the name of it and its location, and introduce it and give us a presentation. I don't know if you can hear us, unless Jen is doing that. I'm not quite sure from the presenter side who's presenting.
Yeah, so I'll take lead with the presenting. Ted will handle his portion when we get there, hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully
Great.
we'll be able to hear him at that point.
Hopefully.
All right, so I will go ahead and share my screen here. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we are here tonight to present to you the redevelopment of an existing Dashin site located at 9075 Baltimore National Pike in Ellicott City. We just went through the development team, so I will skip that portion of the project or of the presentation here and get right into it. So this aerial photo is showing the existing conditions of the site today. The site is located at the southeast corner of Baltimore National Pike and St. John's Lane. It's just west of the US 29 interchange. There is an existing 2,600 square foot Dash-In convenience store, 8 MPD fuel canopy, and a 1,300 square foot car wash along the western property line. There's an existing underground tank field with 4 tanks in the northwest corner of the property. Access to the site is currently right in, right out access from Baltimore National Pike, and also a right in, right out access point from St. John's Lane. The site is zoned B2. The area surrounding is also B2. Adjacent to the property, there's retail to the west. There's office retail space in the rear. Another gas station across from St. John's Lane. And then there's also a bank, SunTrust Bank across Baltimore National Pike. The next few slides have some existing conditions photos just showing the area and that is out there today. These photos are taken from the front of the site, looking east and west along Baltimore National Pike. This photo here, photo 18, is the adjacent retail to the west of the site. And then this is looking across Baltimore National Pike. You can see the SunTrust Bank in this area. And then the next couple of slides just have some context photos of the existing conditions today on site. You can see the fuel canopy. This is looking from the rear of the site out over St. John's Lane. Fuel canopy again from the corner. So with the redevelopment of the site, the Wills Group is looking to expand the size of the convenience store. So it will be a proposed 4,500 square foot convenience store. It will be a Dash-In kitchen concept. The car wash is being proposed to remain along the western property line. That will be expanded to a 3,000 square foot car wash. And then there will be an addition of 2 MPDs to make for a 10 MPD proposed fuel canopy in the front. The underground tank field will remain in the same proximity as existing. It will be limited down to 2 20,000 gallon underground tanks in lieu of the existing four tanks there. Proposed access for the site is along Baltimore National Pike will remain as existing with the right in and right out. And then along St. John's Lane, keeping the right in, right out access. However, this access, we are proposing to expand it in order to have a larger triangle median here to further or actually restrict the access, the left in and the left out to and from St. John's Lane. In addition, there, as I mentioned, the car wash is being proposed on the to remain on the western side of the property. That is in order to be able to have the access for the car wash and the stacking come behind the proposed C-store and be able to keep it confined to this area so that it's not interfering with site circulation. There's stacking spaces, won't be blocking parking or access to the store or to the fuel canopy. There is proposed vacuum spaces in this area as well. Right now, there is 37 parking spaces provided on site. 29 are required by code. So these 7 spaces will have vacuum spaces and canopies to provide for a better patron experience for those that are visiting the car wash. Existing sidewalk along St. John's Lane will remain, and then we are proposing sidewalk along Baltimore National Pike, which is not in existence today, with pedestrian access to the site from from Baltimore National Pike in this area. There will be a connection across to by the car wash, and then ultimately connection across to the C-store area. The site itself sits with pretty even with grade along along that Baltimore National Pike and at the corner of the site. As you come down St. John's Lane, there is a significant change in grade, and there is an existing retaining wall today along the right of way in this area. Assuming you can see my cursor on the screen. Okay. So this area is an existing retaining wall, which is proposed to remain. There is also a proposed retaining wall along the rear of the site in this area, which is proposed to be max of 6 foot in height. The site is located in the Tiber River watershed. So stormwater management will be designed, quality and quantity, to meet the county regulations and also the regulations of the watershed, and will meet the Ellicott City storm requirements as well. This quick picture here is just for an idea of the vacuum spaces and the canopies that are being proposed along the car wash itself. At the end of the presentation, Tony Williams will give a more in-depth, kind of rundown of the concept for the car wash and the C-store itself. Landscaping for the site. Actually, I'll switch on to this slide. Just a prettier picture for you. Site landscaping has been designed to comply with current Howard County regulations. Shade trees are provided along Route 40 and in this portion of St. John's Lane. Along the rear of St. John's here is ornamental trees, along with in the western back corner of the property. There are existing overhead lines in those areas, which is why the ornamental trees are being proposed. Along the parking at the corner of the site and at the base of the proposed freestanding sign, there is juniper and rose. This is to screen the parking and also to add some color in this area. Some rose bushes also along Baltimore National Pike in a hedge line and at the base of the proposed freestanding sign that is on Baltimore National Pike. Along St. John's, we have evergreen hedges to screen the parking spaces in this area, along with the access down to the car wash and around the proposed dumpster enclosure area, which is here at the rear of the site. Here's just some images for reference of the proposed landscape on site. This also is a clip of the material for the proposed retaining wall, which will match the proposed C-store itself. Lighting will not go into detail here, but it is proposed in accordance with the county ordinance. And then this is some information on the proposed fixtures for the site, which was included with our initial submission. So with that all being covered, I will hand over to Adam now to discuss the conditional use portion of the project.
Thank you, Jen. The gas station use itself has existed here for many years. It was expanded in the early 90s to its current footprint. And as part of the proposed redevelopment, we are seeking to amend that underlying conditional use approval. So we'll be filing a conditional use petition along with a variance petition to allow for a 4-foot setback in lieu of the 10-foot required on the, there's a parking spot on the western edge of the property along St. John's Lane, which is proposed to be set back 4 feet from the road. And for that parking spot, we'll need variance relief. And we'll be aiming to file for those zoning petitions as soon as we can. We'll obviously have to put a full case before the hearing examiner. But we're comfortable at this point that the proposed redevelopment and the site itself will meet not only the general requirements of 131 131.0B, but also the specific requirements for motor vehicle fueling facilities found in 131.002. And I'm not going to go through them now, but they're outlined, I guess, on this slide on the right-hand side with regard to the site-specific questions. So unless there are questions, I'm going to hand it off to Ted Connolly with BCT Design Group.
Okay, so we're not hearing Ted. I don't, Anthony, are you?
He just unmuted. So Ted, you just unmuted. You should be able to speak. At least on our end, everything looks set up for that.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I think we can hear you, Ted. It was just very quiet.
Oh, you can hear me.
No, I just heard you.
Yep.
But you're very, very quiet and muted. So maybe, I don't know what the reason is. Maybe your microphone on your laptop or whatever.
About that? No? Oh. How about that?
It's a little better.
Okay. Sorry about that.
So Ted, if you want to go ahead and talk about the building perspectives for the C-store and the car wash and the canopy themselves.
Isn't technology great?
I thought I had it set up and I didn't. My name is Ted Conley. I'm an architect with BCT Design Group in Baltimore. We're best known for our retail and mixed-use projects, both large and small. We recently completed River Hill Square on Clarksville Pike, which I think is a very nicely scaled project for the neighborhood environment. We also recently completed Arbor Terrace Assisted Living on Skaggsville Road, which I think is a beautiful design. The same designer for Arbor Terrace did this design for Dash In and took many of the same design cues and materials. I would say that Arbor Terrace is a built example of what we're trying to bring to the new store. Proposed store is an all-new design that enables Dash In to expand their food and retail opportunities and really make it a one-stop shop. Whether people are rushing to work or rushing to soccer practice, we wanted to create a space that was open and inviting. We wanted customers to have a place to sit down and take a break. The Wills Group has given us the opportunity to introduce a warmer, more subdued color and material palette. And I think we've been able to produce a contemporary, sophisticated design. The wood beams framing the roof provide a warm, natural design feature, both inside and outside the store. The molded brick and fiber cement siding keep the design looking small-scaled and residential and will be a good neighbor to the homes in the area. Note that the design and materials are carried through all the elements proposed for the site, not only in the store and car wash, but also in the gas canopy and trash enclosure. Also note that the rooftop equipment will be located on the rear of the building and is shielded from view by a screen wall. We're excited to be a part of the new design, and we feel that Dash In is setting the standard in the evolution of this building type. Thank you.
All right, and I flipped through those. If you have any specific questions or want me to flip back to any specific views, let me know and then we can do so.
Okay.
Quick touch on signage. The signage was shown on the elevations and we included it in our submission. You know, the details for the signage, square footage for all the signage on the building and the canopy and the car wash itself. We will, be anticipating reviewing this in regards to the Howard County Code, and we'll petition for variances as necessary. That will be separate from the initial conditional use and site variance process. The two signs that are shown here, which are the only ones that I'll really touch on at the current moment, unless you have questions, are the freestanding signs. This one with the dash-in kitchen and the fuel pricing to be proposed at the corner along St. John's Lane, and then the second one, which would be more geared towards the car wash itself, the splash in with the LED screen, would be located where the existing freestanding sign is today, on the western side of the property along Route 40 near the car wash location. So with that being said, I will hand over to Tony Williams with the Wills Group to wrap up our portion, and then we will look for your comments and questions.
Group Inc. We have been around for 95 plus years. We're a privately owned company based in La Plata, Maryland. We have a portfolio of locations, approximately 285 sites, which includes convenience stores and car washes throughout the states of Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware. Although most of our stores are branded Shell, we also operate under Exxon, Marathon, Citgo, Jiffy Mart, and Dash-In. At 60 sites, our convenience stores are branded Dash-In, and that's where we get the Dash-In name. Our car wash brand is known as Splash-In, oddly enough. We strongly believe as a company in our community engagement and philanthropy, and we intend, if we are allowed to redesign here, to continue to participate in that, especially in Ellicott City. It is our sincere commitment as a result to keep lives in motion, which is essentially our motto. This theme of keeping lives in motion is the driving force behind our company strategy and design with what we propose today. It's a driving force for our teams to be customer centric. It's the driving force to improve daily experiences with our customers. In essence, this company this focus has caused a metamorphosis with our convenience store offering and car wash offering, both of which we're showing you today. We believe that in order to be successful in the future, we'll need to differentiate and innovate. And we believe that those elevations that we've shown to you are the start of a very fascinating project. Dash-In has chosen Ellicott City to help premiere its upscale Dash-In kitchen concept for this unique modern offering. I should note that our first DIK is soon to start construction in Loudoun County, Virginia, and we have more in the pipeline. Dash-In believes that the demographics around Ellicott City help support this development. The size of the property, too, also becomes equally important. We believe we will redefine what convenience means to customers and communities through a modernized experience, sophisticated menu with fresh, healthy options, and the soul of a mom and pop store. We believe DIK will also elevate the experience through contemporary architecture utilizing organic materials and textures, and carefully preparing food and beverage menus, balancing a friendly, swift, and efficient technology use. An example of some menu items in terms of a beverage, we've got cold coffee, draft cold brew teas, black green drip coffees. We have sparkling natural sodas, regular conventional sodas, blending of shakes, smoothies, coffees. We have various lemonades and frescas and hydration drinks. We're proposing natural energy drinks, and believe it or not, trying to get into the fermented side of the drinks. Our modern menu that we're considering includes a farmer's breakfast bowl, or a quinoa avocado scramble, 6 to 12 mini donuts that are house baked, muffins, cheddar biscuit, bacon biscuits. We've got yogurt parfaits, hot cereals, Virginia ham, free range egg, and pimento cheese biscuits, a bacon bundle. So as you can see, this is not your conventional convenience store offering. These are healthy, unique, higher scale elevation offerings. Spicy peanut noodles with chicken, chipotle beef bowls, slow cooked pulled barbecue beef, grilled cheese and chips, so on and so forth. We do intend to have a menu that is offered throughout the day. In conclusion, I hope you can see that the elevations, and after hearing some of the menu intentions, you have a better understanding of what we're trying to achieve here. Let me focus a little bit on the splash-in tunnel. Very similarly, our proposed splash-in 85-foot tunnel car wash is a very customer experience focused building. Our commitment is to deliver a clean, shiny, and convenient wash that is friendly on your budget and the environment. Currently, we have one tunnel car wash in Clinton, Maryland, and very similar to the DIK, we have more planned in the queue. Splash-in operates, by the way, approximately 48 in-bay car washes. We're proposing an 85-foot tunnel. The building is intentionally designed to be modern, clean, and classy. All the car wash equipment is state-of-the-art. Spin-right technology, spot-free rinse are examples. The tunnel is 85 feet, safe, and a conveyor belt system, very similar to an airport walkway. The belt is continuously moving, variable speed, which also helps eliminate stacking and delays. The exit dryers are contained within the tunnel. Tunnel doors close at 45 degrees. The eco portion in the name is very important to us. We use biodegradable chemicals and applications. Our miser technology helps to optimize application materials and prevents waste. We also use a water reclaim system to help conserve water and protect quality of nearby water bodies. We belong to the Water Savers program, and this is an international car wash association program that commits to promote environmentally responsible business practices. The construction design contains water runoff and minimizes noise. The building contains a restroom, a small retail area that sells automotive cleaning supplies. There are no detailing services that we are proposing. Payment terminals are also state-of-the-art. In this COVID environment, you may appreciate a touch-free system, which would exist for members. This is basically a decal in your windshield, very similar to Easy Pass. Just go up to the payment center and the doors will open. You're allowed to go in. Touch Pay is also available. Just pop your card on the screen without any touching. Monthly clubs will be offered with no long-term contract requirements. Professional detailing vac systems, which were shown, will be offered for free. Overhead arch construction design affords vacuuming one side at a time very easily. There's an escape lane design that's been carefully designed. Pay vacs and air stations are proposed for non-car wash consumers near St. John Lane. From an operational perspective, the car wash is intended to operate during the hours of 7 and 7, 365 days a year. The car wash will be closed to the public on rainouts. Operations are independent from DIK but complement each other. 4 people per shift, 2 shifts per day, a greeter, loader, manager, and vac attendant. A vac area attendant. The site has been designed to perform 50 washes per hour at peak. 4 hours can be washed at one time. Business obviously is dependent on weather. So in close, I hope this more detailed explanation helps to understand what our intentions for the DIK and the splash-in redevelopment plans. We're here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thank you all for the very thorough and thoughtful presentation. So what I'm going to do is ask that Planning and Zoning give the DAP their thoughts and comments. And then we'll go ahead and ask you all any questions. Nick?
Thank you, Fred. The design group, I mean, they put together a very, thorough explanation of, the proposed gas station and convenience store site that's going on here. As they mentioned, it's a 1.78 acre site. It's zone B2 at the intersection of St. John's and Route 40. I personally have driven by here many times. I'm sure you guys have too, because most of you guys live within the area. They are subject to a conditional use. So moving forward from this, post DAP, they'll be going through that process, and they'll be taking your comments and recommendations forward as they go through that process. Department of Planning and Zoning, we would like the panel to please evaluate the orientation layout of the proposed convenience store and gas station site, and make recommendations on the streetscape and landscape improvements that they have proposed. Comments on the vehicular circulation and pedestrian connections would also be welcome. There's a lot going on here on this site. We'd like your guys' input. If you could also discuss and make recommendations on the frontage design and how this project interfaces with Route 40. It does have direct frontage, and it is subject to the design guidelines established in the Route 40 manual. And then, they have some extensive elevations of their proposed structures and the canopy and the signage. If you guys could please make recommendations on their location orientation, and the styles proposed, and whether or not you think it fits within the context of that area, and will it work with the surrounding structures. So if the panel could give us some input on those areas, we'd be highly grateful.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nick. As I said, I think your presentation is very thoughtful, and I appreciate the more information than we probably would normally need for the design advisory panel. I think it helped me, at least personally, and it was very informative to understand why it is you're doing what you're doing on a site in a facility that seems to be, frankly, I live in a neighborhood, to be very successful as it is. But now I understand better. So I appreciate the in-depth discussion. And I'm going to defer to my colleagues first to get their comments and questions. So maybe we'll start with, and we usually like to kind of go from the macro, sort of site planning perspective first, and then talk about the architecture. So let's maybe start with Larry. You have any thoughts or comments, Larry?
Yes.
Questions?
Both actually. So I'm Larry Quark, and I am a landscape architect, but I did want to make a couple comments on the architecture. I think the term contemporary sophisticated design was used, and I would agree with that. I am familiar with I think it's the age-restricted building on Skaggsville Road, so I do see similarities there. I am familiar with that intersection, so it's not exact copies of what's happening across the road, like at the Cadova shopping center or the Chipotle store, but I do see similarities in that the contemporary architecture seems to fit in with that general area. So I applaud you on that. I think it is warm and welcoming, and I do like the muted colors rather than some retails that want to sort of splash all these bright colors at you, but it ends up not fitting in with the context of the area. I did have a couple questions since you are introducing this as kind of a new prototype and you're choosing Ellicott City, and I'm not asking you to do this, but have you all given consideration to sort of net zero carbon initiative, that we hope to reach by 2035 in terms of, has thought ever been given to the canopies that are over the gas pumps or the buildings having solar panels and things like that? Not necessarily for this project, but for future projects. I just throw it out there because, I see that as really fitting with this type of design, and just allows you to use these big surfaces that not being used for anything else except runoff to help with the needs and an energy and the zero carbon initiative. The other thing is I'm not sure how we go forward with the more and more electric cars. Do stations like this, given that they're selling gasoline, would they have charging stations in the future, or is that considered a separate function? And have you considered that here? Anybody?
Tony, I'm going to defer to you. Tony, you're muted.
My apologies. I do agree with all the comments that were made. Without making any formal commitments, I think that our organization is looking at all of the various items that you spoke about. The timing on the electric cars is certainly an internal debate. You see more and more charging stations out. Most of those charging stations, in my opinion, are located on areas that have a lot more land. Your Wawas, your Royal Farms, people that are on 3 to 4 acres that have available parking spaces. But it is the reality of our future, and I although we probably have not factored that into this particular design, it is something that we'll have to contemplate in the future.
Okay, yeah, because you're just getting started on this, I thought if you do have larger sites, that might be something that you can incorporate. Also, I'm not sure whether it was Ted or one of the others that had talked about being community oriented, keeping lives in motion, improving the daily experience of customers. And again, I'm not really asking for this, but you might want to consider this. I know in Ellicott City, it's very popular to have community art, and I saw the one facade where it's kind of just the dark panel. It's kind of screamed out that that could be a possibility if you want to go to it where community art might be able to be incorporated into that. It might be something reminiscent of old Ellicott City or, the history of the area. You see it a lot in McDonald's, not on the outside, but yeah, they kind of, go with the context of a certain area and may have pictures of the local area or whatever. So again, just an idea because it's, a nice dark panel there, and something like that does make the building fit its place, kind of give it a sense of place, and that might be a way of doing that in future jobs when there is, the opportunity to do it.
I appreciate the suggestion.
And now I'm going to get to the landscape. I have no problems with, the trees and shrubs for the most part, but I did want to know, I meant to get back out there to see what the street tree planting is across the street at the Sun Trust or the Qdoba shopping center there. I don't know whether that was built prior to having a Route 40 design guidelines, but I would encourage you, if there are street trees there, that you consider matching those, because we do want to have street trees along Route 40, but if we're constantly, changing it, we don't get the sort of uniformity of, certain types of trees on certain sections of 40. And if there isn't any street trees or anything that's noticeable, I would encourage you to switch the trees. You have the linden trees, which are kind of narrow and smaller, like out along Route 40. And then you have the swamp white oak on the 4 trees at each corner of the Dash-In store. I think the scale of the white oaks would be better out on the street because they're much more massive. And I'd like to see them sort of grow and really become major trees. Whereas when they're in these little parking islands, like around the Dash-In, I think the linden tree might be more appropriate there.
Okay. Yeah, this corridor of 40 right now does not have any street trees, so we would ultimately be setting the precedent.
Okay, and Jen, you might want to consider the swamp white oak does do good in various environments, but it's really known more for sort of wetland areas. So you may want to switch it to like the willow oak or something like that that is more known for the drier areas. And then the only other comment is the Zelkova. It's kind of out there by itself, and I don't really see the purpose for just one Zelkova. I would think that whatever you're doing along Route 40, if it's the willow oak or you do switch it to the swamp white oak, that you just make that tree the same thing. Because again, it's just, why have it there if it's just one tree? I like to see something that kind of ties the site together. And that's the extent of my comments.
Sure, thank you.
Great, thanks, Larry. How about over to Dan?
Hello, everybody. Dan Lovett, just taking my notes along through here. First of all, just want to say I love the design of the building, how it is all matching with the canopy, and the car wash is a very nice touch. Although I will want to say, are you planning to extend that for the dumpster pad, or you're not? What are you going to have there? Are you just using landscaping to cover it, or?
In the dumpster enclosure area?
Yeah.
Yes, so the dumpster enclosure will be brick again to match the building with the fencing on the front, and then it would be evergreen shrubs screening.
Excellent. Good. I just wondered if the theme kept going that far, so it sounds like it did. I like that. Probably the biggest thing I think is really missing, if we go back to the site plan again, we're increasing the amount of impervious area, even though this is a redevelopment for most part, but it's part new development. And what I see is lacking is what we're going to do for stormwater management. And I think you're going to have to be creative because you've got a really limited site with a limited amount of green space. You're really going to need to think this through and how you're going to do it and how you're going to get that past water quality for the state. So I think that needs to be looked at. And however you want to do it, are you going to go with the green roof or are you going to put in bioswales? I don't know if there's enough room for any of that. Do you want to go with impervious pavers where you've got parking? I think you're going to have to put some more thought in that. And that, of course, if you use those pavers, there's more of a maintenance issue that you're going to have to contend with later on down the road. So I just would like to see you give a little bit more thought about what you're going to do about stormwater management instead of saying, well, we're going to meet the regulations on it.
Sure. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. And we have, done some preliminary looks at the stormwater and, have areas where we are anticipating, having facilities and meeting the requirements, and some of the suggestions that you made are on our list of options to explore.
And also just one little quick question. I was just curious, just for my knowledge of knowing, because on the car wash, obviously we have a lot of hot water that's going in. Where is the water going? Is this going back into, I know you say you were claiming some of it, but obviously some of it it's going to be draining out. Does that go to storm? Does that go in the sewer? Where does it go?
It goes into sewer.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Dan. Ethan, how about you? Any comments, questions? Ethan?
Yes, hi. I have, yes, hi. I have really one comment. I think you guys have done a great job in just making something that's going to stand out in the marketplace, both architecturally and from a concept standpoint. It's well done. My comment or question is in regards to your variance with the 3 parking spaces. I know you touched on the overall parking count of the project. I'm not sure where you stand in compliance with the code for or zoning for parking, but I would encourage you to potentially switch the tactic and reduce the parking spaces by 2, maybe consider 2 parallel spaces along that edge rather than going 4 feet from St. John's Lane, which would buy you additional 9 feet. So that could still maintain a robust landscape buffer. I would recommend that as a variance as opposed to reducing the buffer. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ethan. Bob?
Yeah, I totally agree with Ethan. That was my question. You had said earlier, Jen, that you had more than enough parking than you needed. And those 3 spaces seem like you're kicking into a variance that you don't need to do. I think even if you put 2 spaces there as parallel, you probably would be within compliance, have more green space. And I think it's something you should really consider. The other thing I was looking at was to follow up on Dan's comment about drainage and stormwater. That right in, right out there on St. John's Lane, all the water seems to be draining out there. I could be wrong about that. It was a little hard to read the contour lines, whether you're dropping down from St. John's Lane or dropping into St. John's Lane. Do you know what's happening there?
So we would do trench drains at the access there to collect that flow so that it would not be going out into St. John's Lane.
But it is dropping down into St. John's Lane.
Correct.
Okay. But I seriously consider, rethinking if you have enough parking, those 3 spaces are kicking you into a variance that you probably don't need to do. And you could probably pick up 2 spaces as parallel parking along there and not have to jump through that hoop. The other thing I think you ought to think about, and we say this to everyone along Route 40, is that across your entrances where you have sidewalks, it would probably be good to paint crosswalks. We talk about, championing pedestrians, but we never really do. And, that would help. So the only other thing I also like the architecture, and I hope you keep with the $2.34 price per gallon of gas that you showed in your sign. I'll come there all the time. So good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob. I think I got everybody on the panel, so I'll go with a couple of questions, comments that didn't seem to get answered with everybody, all of my colleagues. I'm not sure if I totally caught where the dumpster enclosure is located. Jen,
It's in this back area.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. And then I know I'm not a landscape architect, but I frequent this, well, I should say once in a while when I need to get gas, I'll come here. And at the entrance and the exit, I notice, you've got some landscape, some trees and so forth that Larry's already commented on. I would just caution you, as much as we all would like to see street trees going down Route 40, when you're leaving this gas station, cars are coming at you pretty fast. And the last thing you want to do is obscure vision coming out of the gas station there. So I don't know, I'm not familiar exactly with the plantings you suggested, nor am I familiar with the trees and sort of they would inhibit, whether or not they would inhibit, being able to see oncoming traffic. So I would just be wary of that as you're selecting your plant materials there.
Sure. And we will definitely be mindful of that, and I will make sure that our landscape architect is aware of that.
Yeah, it's you really have to, sometimes you have to come out of there really fast, and if you can't see, I could see that being a potential for a lot of accidents there.
It's not the trees, it's the ground plane stuff that you do there.
Yeah, so. I suppose so. Yeah, but I'm not familiar with the trees and sort of how low they hang and how big they get. And anyway, enough said about that. But I agree with my colleagues' comments about the parking spaces, looking at parallel options on St. John. If you can make that work, you might save yourself some effort having to go through a variance. And what was my other, a couple of other comments, questions. I'm not sure I saw what the canopy at the fuel pumps and what the canopy at the vac stations would be looking like, and colors and materials. So the materials and the colors would, on the vac stations, are they going to be blue like the ones you showed in the photograph?
So Tony, I'll let you.
Well, currently at this particular photo, as a result of only having really kind of one of these type of in our network, this is what we have at this location. If you were needed some other different color, I'm sure that we would evaluate, and if it's available, we possibly use it.
I'm not gonna. Tony. I guess my question was, how I think Ethan or somebody made a comment before about how we really, I personally like the colors and the softer palette you've chosen throughout the entire design of the site with the architecture and the materials and everything. And I just question, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I think the blue kind of means water. Frankly,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know the degree of flexibility. It is something that we could look at if it is a concern. So.
And I'm not concerned. I just was asking the question because I don't.
Okay.
I didn't know looking at the elevations, but I did remember this photograph. So the same question back to the canopy over the fuel pumps. What's the intent and the color and the materials there? Is it all?
Very similar to what this is rendered
okay.
as. Yep.
Let's see, galvanized fish. Yeah. Okay. Okay. If you wouldn't, Jen, mind going back to the site plan.
Sure.
So I'm sure you're very familiar with your only competition in the neighborhood being Dolly's Car Wash down the street.
Yes.
And you're probably familiar with the fact that that place gets really busy certain times of the year, depending on how much snow we've had and so forth. And I'm sitting here thinking and trying to envision and estimate clearances and queuing and everything else behind the store, behind the dash-in, and coming up to the kiosks where I guess I pay, and how potentially congested that's going to get, and then how it's going to be coming out of the car wash and looping back around to go to the vacuum bays. If you're familiar with Dolly's, where you come out, as you're leaving, you hit the vacuum bays. Here, you have to circle back around. And what I'm wondering about is the pinch point there, where the fuel pumps are and where the exit is of the car wash and people coming out, and then all of the cars queuing behind the dash-in. And I do see that you have an exit there that you can get out of line, I guess, if you decide at the last minute right there, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so this exit is there, and then the stacking behind the dash-in in the access for the car wash is 16 spaces.
Okay.
10 is required per bay per code, so it is over what's required per code. And then we did try to leave space here, for multiple cars to be able to stack coming out of the car wash, as you mentioned, so that they could then, exit the site if they're not going to circle back to the vacuum spaces, or be able to then come and circle back.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that from my perspective, Dolly's is a collection of different types of car washes, right? You've got your wand washes, you've got some in-bay car washes. I'm not sure if they have a conveyor belt system like we're proposing here. They may. That may be one of theirs, but our goal here is really to try to focus on those higher end vehicles, higher end customers.
So having said that, are you planning on having an attendant at the exit of the car wash for drying or not?
No, there's no need for a dryer. We've got our dryers built into the tunnel. There will be somebody at the front, at the entry, to make sure that people are entering onto the conveyor belt correctly.
Okay. I think it's a great project. I think it's a great project for Ellicott City. Aside from the fact, and I think DPZ had one comment or a couple comments. Nick, I thought I remember reading you were asking us whether or not you thought everything should be shifted forward a bit, and that's kind of where my comment is coming from, with the stacking behind the building and the clearances back there. And that's something you all will have to evaluate internally as this moves through the process in the county, for clearances and so forth. Looks tight to me, but then again, I know how the front of this site works with coming in and coming out, the vehicles coming in very fast off the 40 and then hitting the pumps, and then the space between the pumps and the store as it exists. So I'd be concerned if you move the building any further north, that you might create more of a problem than leaving it where it currently is. But anyway, Nick, DPZ, y'all can look at that when you look at actual dimensions, because we're not looking at dimensions here.
Yeah, Fred, I think we just wanted to make sure we mentioned it because in the project that's currently under construction over at Chatham, about a block away,
a
lot of that discussion was about pulling that building much more forward towards the street, and it was a similar condition where it was at a street corner. So we just wanted to make sure that we were being sort of raising the question and being consistent with the review piece.
Yep. By the way, that project's looking pretty good, I think. So for sure. I don't have any other comments or questions. I think it's a great looking project. You all did a great job, very thorough, and appreciate the effort. Let's move to making motions. Does anyone on the DAP want to make the first motion? Are there any motions?
Yes, I have a motion. This is Larry Quarek. My motion deals with the applicant considering changes to the landscape plan. And there are four parts to the motion. One is move the 4 linden trees that are currently shown along Route 40 to the area where the 4 white swamp oak or the swamp white oaks are around the building. The second one is switch the 4 swamp white oak to either willow oak or other large drought tolerant tree and place those along Route 40 where the linden trees were. The third is switch the Zelkova to match those trees that are going along Route 40. And 4 is ensure that the ground level shrubbery and the trees themselves do not obstruct the sight line of people heading pulling out and having to face traffic that's coming and heading, I guess, east on Route 40.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Everybody on the panel said aye. And Bob Gorman seconded. Okay, any other motions?
I'll make a motion, Bob Gorman, that you take another look at the 3 parking spaces along St. John's Lane that requires you to do a variance and either think of them as parallel parking in that area or eliminate them because you're over on the parking requirement that you need.
I'll second that.
that
Fred
motion.
Marino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any other motions?
My motion is that when they present this the next time, that you show what and where they are going to put in stormwater management. Because I think it's just going to be critical on the site, which has very little bit of green space.
Anthony, or Dan, I think that's probably a good comment. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be a motion because I don't see them coming back to the panel with this
Right,
project.
that's what I was going to clarify. Are you anticipating
Yeah.
them coming back to
Okay.
review, or that as we
Yeah.
continue our reviews, we will be sure to
Right.
investigate that with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless it all of a sudden becomes a major difference in the overall design of the project that requires a whole nother review of the DAP, but I don't anticipate that.
Okay.
Okay, any other motions? Not seeing any hands, not hearing anything. Okay, great job, y'all. Thank you very much for presenting tonight. No other motions are made. We'll move on to our next project. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too, Jen. Okay, our next project, I don't know if, Anthony, you can see, I don't know if they're even, the presenters are here or not.
Yes, they should be. Let me double check. I see Sam is here. Yep.
Okay.
And then let's see. Sam, who else was on your team? Anybody?
I have with me Jacob Hikmat, the developer. He's sitting right next to me, so on the same camera. I also have here Maya. She's my partner, but she's here to just listen to what we're saying.
Gotcha. So I will, Melissa, could you just make Sam give him presenting privileges?
I just drag the box in. Let's see here.
You should be able to right click on his name and then you should be able to give him. There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Should be good to go.
So they're set to go, Fred.
Okay, so should we go through and introduce all of ourselves again? you think,
Maybe,
or-
yeah, let's do a quick introduction as if we were starting again.
Yeah, because you're on record anyway. So I think you all know the process here, but we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. You all been here before, so I won't go into major detail. We'll introduce ourselves, you introduce yourselves, and go into the presentation. Fred Marino, I'm the DAP chair, and I'm an architect.
Bob Gorman, I'm the vice chair. I'm a landscape architect and planner.
Larry Quarrick, and I'm a landscape architect.
Ethan Martin.
Dan Lovett, civil engineer.
Okay, we got Dan and Ethan. Okay,
Dan Lovett, civil engineer.
great. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody. Let's go over to Anthony
Anthony Cataldo, Division of Land Development, Howard County Planning and Zoning.
and Nick.
Nicholas Haynes, also Planning and Zoning, Division of Land Development.
Great. So Sam, if you wouldn't mind introducing your team that's here tonight to present and then go into your presentation, hopefully keep us to less than 15 minutes. And what's the
Okay.
matter, Dan? Can you not hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Sam Alomer. I'm a professional engineer with Mildenberg Bowender and Associates. And I have with me here Jacob Hikmat. He is the developer. Also Maya Mildenberg, my partner, but she is not going to be presenting. Jacob is also not presenting, but he's here to answer any questions you may have. Guys, I want to thank you first for the comments we received as we went through the first DAP meeting. I want to do my presentation very quickly again for the project, just in case someone is listening who hasn't seen it before or heard it. Our site is on 5263 Kerger Road in Ellicott City. The site is zoned R20 and the site area is 8.35 acres. The use we're proposing is age-restricted semi-detached unit. The site we're proposing 30 units. We're allowed 30 units. The density is 4 units per acre. As you can see from the plan, the site is surrounded by forest conservation areas to the east and partially to the south, and also to the west across from Kerger Road. We are also proposing to enhance and increase on those forest conservation areas by additional afforestation to the south and to the east. So essentially, when this project is done and finished, we will have the project surrounded by forest conservation areas and landscaping on 3 sides or 3 directions, in 3 directions. We are proposing a private road to serve the community. The community, like I said, is consisting of 30 semi-detached units. I know you guys have commented on the size and number of units. This size and number of units and density have been presented and have been developed around the county in many other projects, like Ellicott Meadows, Enclave at Park Place, and many others. This size has been used and it has proven to be successful and has proven to show demand. Again, the site, the area of open space at the site under our zoning for this conditional use, we're required to have 35% open space. We're providing 50% open space. We have been able to move the community center to the middle of the private road or to the center of the private road. And we have been able to increase the number of off-site parking or on-street parking to 13 from 7. I want to also talk about a few comments we received. We were able to push the microbiome retention away from the unit, further away from the unit to give more room in the back for those units. The walking path have been wrapped around the pond as was proposed. We have added more picnic tables and a gazebo in that area, in the area of the pond, close to the large maple tree. As far as the architecture is concerned, there was a comment on shutters or on, if you excuse me just 1 second, I want to go through my notes. Shutters, yeah, the shutters are proposed on many elevations and they will be used. A covered porch is also an option for the units as was requested, and it will be offered to the prospective buyers. The width of the depth of the driveway for all units will be a minimum of 20 feet beyond the parking spot, and that is going to be net beyond the free parking spot. I'm going to zoom into the detail because that was one of your comments also. The slope of the road will be a maximum of 5%, so as the slope of those driveways. We have added, I'm going to go back to my other exhibit, we have added the street trees, and we have, again, we're showing extensive landscaping on all perimeters of the project. in one of the exhibits we submitted, we went into more detail about the forest conservation and the type of trees we're using along the perimeter. We have especially focused on the south perimeter because that's the perimeter that has 3 existing houses there that might be affected by this project. Again, we have a large, added a forest conservation area in addition to evergreen landscaping along the perimeter in the south. I'm not going to go too much into detail about what type of trees we're proposing or the forest con. We're going to be obviously following up with, or complying with the landscape manual and forest con manual, and we're actually adding much more trees along the perimeter than required in certain areas, about double what's required. We're trying to be aware of the community around us. In reality, once we're developed, we are again surrounded by 3 of our 4 perimeters will be surrounded by forest conservation. That's my presentation. I hope I did not guys think of anything. I hope I did not forget anything. I'll be more than happy to listen and answer to any of your questions, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Nick, over to you from Planning and Zoning.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the panel knows, this is the second time you guys have seen this, this project. You guys last considered it at the April 6th meeting that we had. The general number of units, has remained the same. They have, as Sam just, explained, they've updated their layout and, some of their methods of addressing your previous comments that were made at that meeting. We would like to note, with this existing proposed design, there are some things, as they move through the design process, they are going to have to consider. One being the walking trail, as proposed here. There are some minor encroachments into some of the environmentally sensitive areas, and I believe they are requesting removal of a specimen tree on site. So those will require alternative compliance, and they'll be going through that process as they move forward with their design. Just something to consider, that we are looking at that, and they are taking these things into account as they move forward with this proposed project. So, planning and zoning, and we'd like you guys to make recommendations again on the orientation, layout, and configuration of this revised site plan. Does the proposed configuration design, does it better suit the proposed age restricted development that they have going on site? If you guys could also make recommendations, they did refine and provide some refined edge treatments and transitions from this proposal to the surrounding neighborhood. Is that doing a better job of providing those those healthy transitions to and from the property? And then if you guys could make recommendations on the amenity spaces and stuff, they've done some refinements there in terms of what they have proposed, in their the exercise trail and stuff like that. Make comments on that. And lastly, the architecture and stuff. Is it doing a better job of working itself into the existing neighborhood, and will help provide a much better cohesive community within that context. So
I just want to add to what Nick had presented that we did receive community comments through our website portal, and that those comments have been passed along to the DAP members. So thank you for all of the participants who are watching and logged in who have sent comments. Those have been shared with our panel. And then just to touch on what Nick had mentioned, with the some of the proposed site changes do require would require alternative compliances because they are not meeting the current regulations. With this being a conditional use plan, one of our concerns is that the conditional use, the amenity space sort of supported by the conditional use may be in conflict with our requirements. And so trying to work those through now or find the best resolution of those community amenities would be more advantageous now than to have a conditional use plan that's approved potentially in conflict with our regulations. So that's why we did note those specific items.
Okay, thank you, Nick and Anthony. I frankly am not quite sure what to make of this submission. So I'm gonna punt and hand off the first comments to my colleague Bob, who's always so eloquent in his comments and questions, to give me time to think about it.
Well, thanks very much, Fred. As I recall, and reading our recommendations last time, you were not in compliance with the amenity requirements for a 55 and older community, and that we asked that you seriously consider taking greater advantage of the lake and the somewhat more generous open space you have around that. It seems to me that you've done the bare minimum in terms of the community center, which strikes me as such an afterthought where you have it that it's worthless. I think if you really want to have an amenity for this community and to meet the requirements of the code, you would put that center perhaps where unit 20 and 21 are. Am I reading 20 and 22? It's a little hard to read. The wide part of the open space next to the lake, central to the project, rather than trying to jam it in that elbow area on the north side. Now that would require you dropping 2 units, which I think we suggested you do anyway in our last comments, which would also make this more palatable to surround the community. So maybe you could just talk about that for a second, why that's something you can't do.
Thank you, Bob. We have moved the community center from the front of the project to the center of the project. Now, as far as moving it where units 21 and 22 are, like you said, doing that will require reducing the number of units or losing units. And we have discussed that internally with the developer, and this is not something that is feasible with this project. As you guys know, economics matter, and we're trying to do here what we can. I believe the design looks very good. The community center has been made slightly larger. There is a clear walking path from the community center and from the cul-de-sac, and it's an open area that can be reached. The gazebos and the picnic tables are easily accessible from the community building, basically. And
where you're showing the center has no connection to a pathway system. It has no amenity space around it, and it's really crowding the units on either side of it. So I think it's an afterthought, to try to maximize the units on this site. I understand developers want to do that, but it's not in compliance.
And I'm going to chime in here because, Sam, I hear what you're saying, but I don't appreciate, the only driver being economics. And, the site's got to make sense in terms of how it's laid out. We talked the last time we met with you all, and I'm looking at the comments here, to look at smaller unit sizes, to look at less units, and the primary comments were those two. And of course, make it a better site, make it more contextual with the community, make it so that it's not just all economics and you've tried to cram as many units as you can into this little site. Oh, and by the way, as an afterthought here, we're going to go ahead and push, try and meet the DAP's requirements or requests and put the community center where it will just fit, as opposed to it being a great amenity for the communities you're building. You put it on the side where the pond is, even if it means you lose a unit. So, I'm kind of, I don't appreciate where we're supposed to just take, it's all about the economics. That's not what this committee is here for. So, I'm sitting here looking at it, you got 30 units. That's the same amount you had before. If this is all about economics, I think Howard County needs to take another look at
Fred, it's not just about economics.
Well, that's what I heard you say just a minute ago. That's basically how you came back to Bob.
Jacob?
May I speak? May I speak?
Sure.
Yes, this is Jacob Hickman. I've worked as an engineer and as developer in many of these projects in Howard County. I have yet to see a better project for age restricted that's done. If we are definitely meeting all the requirements, 100%. If we don't, we will never be approved. So the requirements will be met. We're trying to accommodate your comments, and some of them were very good, and we were able to do it. It's not a community center like you think. It's not like you're supposed to have like exercise rooms or anything. In the regulation, it just talks about a common area, common space. It's not a community center. Besides, we're 700 square feet. We're like 40% more than what we're required to do. If somebody is going to force us to move the community center, all I'm going to do is I'm going to move these duplexes. They're going to become multifamily. They're going to be moved to the sides to space the area. So the number of units is not going to change. They're going to go from duplexes to townhouses. I'm fine either way. So if you recommend moving the community center to the other side and making 4-unit townhouses on both sides, we can do that. I don't think that's the right approach. I think it's detrimental to what we're proposing. A lot of thought was put into this.
Have you reduced the size of these units?
I'm sorry?
Have the unit sizes been reduced?
We cannot reduce the unit sizes. This is in order for you to have an age restricted with first floor bedroom, they have to be large. The only alternative is to have elevators, and that is not what people want. These units have been all over the county. NB Homes, Ryan Homes, almost every age restricted project has these units in it. So I'm not sure exactly what size units do you want. And if you want an elevator, you have to have this size in the first floor.
Can you go to the elevations for just 1 second?
I mean, this is NB Homes, guys. They've been doing this all over the place.
These look like very adaptable units. Why couldn't you take the buildings on either side, where I don't have it in front of me now on the site plan, but the 20 and 22, and make those 3-unit clusters to give you the space to put the community center on the lake side? That would open up that space. You would keep the same number of units. You wouldn't be jamming your community center into the elbow on the other side of the road where it has absolutely no amenity, and actually reduces the value of those homes on that side of the street.
Bob, our initial design was showing townhomes on the right-hand side where you were talking. We met with the community, we met with the neighbors. They all were saying, we don't want townhomes. If you can make everything semi-detached.
Well, call it a triplex. Call it a triplex, don't call it townhome.
Well, it's called a townhome.
I don't have any other comments.
This is really a nice design. I mean, have you guys looked at other projects? This is a very nice design for age restricted.
You also have to take into consideration the context. Okay, I hear what you're saying.
I don't know what the context is. I mean, what is the context?
Go drive around, look at the neighborhood.
I do. I designed them. They're all over the place.
Okay.
I mean,
look, we're giving you our comments. Okay. We're giving you our comments.
Yeah.
You can take them into consideration, and planning and zoning will also do the same.
A lot of them were good comments, and we understand. But it's a good project. Say it. It's a nice project.
It doesn't look compatible with the neighborhood, to be honest with you. It looks like you just. Can I finish, sir? Please.
Sure.
It looks like you crammed as many units as you could fit on this site. Period. Okay, to make the economics. Period. And at this point, this is where it comes down to the county having to decide what they're going to do here, because right now, DAP, at least from what I'm hearing from myself and my one colleague, I'd like to hear from the others what their thoughts are. I'm going to go around our group and and everybody put in their comments. Bob, did you have any others?
No, I'm done.
Okay, Ethan.
Yes, I'd like to comment. I support my colleagues 100%. I also support your statement that you do check the boxes of the regulations. However, I do not feel you meet the intent of the regulations because of the natural features of the site. you are getting about, if you consider one of these buildings, one of these duplexes, a single house, you're getting 0.55 acres per lot. That's crammed into about maybe 60% of the overall area. The buildings are too close together. They're too large. They don't match the content. I don't see supporting this as a conditional use of this site to be an applicable design.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, I don't have anything as far as the civil aspect of the site. It looks like you have plenty of stormwater management and everything. However, I agree with my colleagues. This does look awful crowded. I think there's a couple of things like what they were talking about with the community center would be nicer. And I'm not too crazy about the architectural design, but I'm not an architect, but I'm along with the rest of them. I kind of agree. This does look jam-packed. So other than that, that's all I have.
Who haven't I called on? Larry?
Me. Yes, I had not seen this project before. I was not able to attend the April meeting, but my thoughts before we even came on to this meeting was, boy, there's really no room there between the units. It's really jammed. And density, the developers, they want to get the most they can in order, from an economic standpoint to make the most money. But I did drive this area just yesterday, and
What happened?
We lost you, Larry.
Larry? We lost Larry.
True, homes that are the downsizing thing regarding. Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay. With the age restriction, I'm not sure why developers are coming in with homes that are so large. I am also not understanding, because some of the community comments were the number of people that can live in these units. I mean, I always thought the age restriction meant that you had to be 55 and older, but am I not understanding that right? Could a family of 4 buy this house, but they have a parent that is like 60, and that would qualify them to live here? Because that has everything to do with the size of these recreational amenities. I was understanding the age restriction meant that you would have 1 or 2 people living in each unit. Can someone explain that to me? Is that the case, or can a larger family buy this and have an older parent living with them, and that qualifies them to buy this house because they have someone that meets the age restriction?
Larry, I'd have to pull the actual sort of legal text behind it. I don't want to misstate anything off the top of my head.
Okay, I'm only asking that because of the density and the number of people that generates with cars and everything else. But again, the density I think is just really it's out of sight in terms of this small site. And then I do agree that I wasn't here again for the community center discussion or the recreation building. I do feel like it was just an afterthought, just wedged in there. I would not want to live in those units that have that building that close to it. If they looked at across the street with units 21 and 22, I mean, what a great way of opening up those views and everything to the entire community, and not just allowing the 6 units or so to have a view of the pond. And then also the recreational amenities are down the slope. The only way you can get to them now is at the end of the cul-de-sac and going all the way around the lake, or from the front of the development and then coming the other way. If you were able to get the rec building up in the area where 21 and 22 are, then I could see some sort of switchback pathway or ramps that would take you down to the amenities. Because right now the 2 things are completely separate, and they really shouldn't be. There should be a direct connection between the rec building and the amenities that have been put down the slope there. And also the pathway, I'm hearing comments that it's been narrowed to 4 feet. I don't know if that's the case, but it should definitely not be any narrower than 6 feet. And it definitely needs to be paved. There's no way that a gravel path is going to serve the needs of someone who is handicapped that wants to meet or go on that walk in and go down to the amenities. And that's the extent of my comments.
Larry, to clarify the definitional piece of who can live there, I did pull the regulation. Age-restricted adult housing is a development that contains independent dwelling units, each with a full kitchen that is designed for and restricted to occupancy by households having at least one member who is 55 years of age or older. There's some additional information. Another key point is that children less than 18 years of age shall not reside in a dwelling unit for more than a total of 90 days per calendar year. So at a high level, it of course is intended for older adults, and there is a restriction on anyone less than 18 years of age.
Okay, thank you, because that just helps me on future projects to know, what we're looking at is the number of people that would be living and using the store.
So looking back at our comments before too, we also said to take another look at the overall site layout and better enhance the existing pond amenity for the entire neighborhood. I'm not seeing how that's been done here. And I think that the intent was not just for this neighborhood, but the intent was for the broader adjacent neighborhood to be able to use the amenity of the pond or the space around the pond, but I don't see, unless I'm missing it, how that's been achieved.
This is Jacob again. Hi. When we started this project, we were going to remove the pond. That was our plan, because this pond does not meet MDC 78. The neighbors and the community said that, could you please keep the pond? So we revised our whole plan to make the pond, we called it Kegger Pond, and we kept the pond at a higher cost. Now, the pond and the open space are going to be private, so the community cannot use it. Only the people who own the property. So it's a private open space. So we have done a lot of work to keep the pond at a higher cost, and we made it the center of the project. Back to the community center. If you guys want to insist on putting the community center on the other side, I'll be more than happy to do that. We just have to create townhomes on either side. We can do that. I mean, I'm fine with that if we don't lose units. So we can move the community center next to the pond, make it four townhomes on the left and 4 townhomes on the right. That would be okay with us. I mean, we want to be helpful. The pathway really needs to be 4 feet. The sidewalks for communities of 100 units are usually 4 feet wide. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people using that pathway. It's only 4 feet is plenty.
Well, they won't if it's 4 feet, I can tell you that.
I'm sorry?
They won't use it if it's 4 feet. And is it paved or is it not paved?
Well, I mean, with either way. I mean, I'd rather to have it paved, but if in order to get a waiver to allow us, remember, we're in the middle of the wetland. So we need a waiver from planning and zoning to start with anyway. So it's 6 feet, I don't mind, but that's going to be not good for the environment either. I mean, like you gotta balance it. I don't see many people using it. I mean, I live in a community with 100 units and I don't see people using that sidewalk. So I just don't, we can make it 6 feet. It's not a big deal. If that's what you guys want, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Well, what I've seen post-COVID and even during COVID is that there are a lot of people that are wanting to walk, and I see it as being a great amenity if it's accessible for someone that may have a cane or might have even to use a walker to get their exercise. But on a 4-foot gravel path, you're right, there won't be as many people using it.
So I mean, I don't mind. Yeah, we can make it 6 feet paved. We can try that and see what planning and zoning would say. So for 6 foot paved sidewalk, I'm fine with that. Okay. Moving the community center to the other side and making it townhomes, I'll be more than happy to do that also.
So how would you say you addressed our comment number 4, or our motion 4 here? It looks like we said we ought to study the plan in great detail, even after a reduction in the size of all or some of the units, and reducing the quantity of the units to make it more consistent with the neighborhood. I'm not seeing how that was addressed, and how these units are bigger than the houses in the neighborhood and yet this is supposed to be for an over 55. Now, I know you said if you're going to put a first floor master and you're going to put an elevator, that they have to be this big, but I'm not sure that I agree with that. But again,
Well,
I'm not seeing how our comment was addressed. I'm feeling like y'all just came back and took the low hanging fruit and tried to address that, and that was it.
We're not taking the low-hanging fruit, because the low-hanging fruit would be to provide townhomes or condos and maximize the size 100% more. You keep comparing the conditional use with the existing R20. You really should compare the conditional use with other within the conditional use requirements. We meet all the conditional use requirements. We exceed all the conditional use requirements. So of course, if you want to compare it with single families, no, we're dead, right? But compare it with conditional uses, and we're okay. We're good. We're very good, actually. We're as good as could be. I can't imagine any age-restricted community providing such a good project.
Well, the bottom line is here, sir, the community is not, is very unhappy with your approach here. And this panel is in agreement with them on a number of their concerns and comments. So I'm not sure, Anthony, where we go from here, because it appears to me that some of our comments were just sort of blown off, and it's as though we're almost getting a threat that he's going to come back and put condos and townhomes on the site next. So I'm not sure where we go from
it
here.
was not a threat. It's an explanation of our design approach.
Understood, but that's not the way it just came off. So
in terms of the DAP and their comments, what I would suggest is that, Fred, I think you guys have the opportunity to either reinstate the previous motions through a motion, or to do that and create additional motions. I would like to get some clear either confirmation or direction from the panel in terms of the comments, because following this DAP review, the team will have to address the individual motions again with the planning and zoning. And they'll also be applying for the conditional use approval on the site, which will be a separate public hearing process, which DPZ will provide a staff report to the hearings examiner on. So I think at this point, I'd like to hear, or I'd like to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to either reinstate or create new motions, or if there are no additional motions, I want to just make sure that we can leave with clear direction from the panel that the development team could reply to or respond to.
I mean, I don't know if my colleagues have our motions and recommendations in front of them from our last meeting, but I have here items 1 through 7, and essentially I'm not seeing any of them that were addressed or taken into consideration with this latest plan. So other than perhaps one that might have been addressed to some extent, and I can read them if everybody needs me to. Does everybody have the recommendations or not?
Fred, would you read them? Because since
Sure.
I wasn't at that April meeting, I didn't have them.
All right, for the applicant to come back with a plan that shows alternate unit sizes or smaller unit sizes was number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, for the applicant to consider eliminating units 20 and 21 to use that space for community center that meets the code and provides an outdoor recreational area, and providing a landscape plan that shows street trees up and down all of the private road. Now, that's the one where I think they have done it. They've got the street trees added there.
Right.
Number 3, for the applicant to provide outdoor space in the backyards for each unit. Again, these unit sizes and their positioning has not changed, so some of the units don't even look like they have a backyard. Number 4, for the applicant to study the plan in great detail, even after a reduction in the size of all or some of the units, and reducing the quantity of the units to make it more concurrent with the neighborhood. Number 5, for the applicant to take another look at the overall site layout and to better embrace the existing pond amenity for the entire neighborhood. Number 6, for the applicant to take a look at the adjacent variety of architecture to make sure the proposed homes are fitting into that vernacular. And vernacular goes with scale too, right? These are massive homes that they're putting on this site. For the applicant to, item number 7, for the applicant to widen the proposed walking trail from 5 feet to 6 feet. And I just heard 4 feet, so I'm not sure what the trails are on here, but we were asking for them to go to 6 feet because, as Larry, you stated, you can't walk on a 4-foot trail with people side by side. So again, those were our 7 comments, and I personally feel like they all need to be reinstated, with perhaps the second portion of number 2, which asks for street trees, and it looks like they've put the street trees in.
Right.
Other than that, I would make a motion that all of these comments be reinstated. Anybody want to second that?
motion.
I would second that motion.
I see two people seconding that, Bob and Larry, and all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Hopefully that satisfies what we need for the record, for this evening's meeting. Anthony, I mean, I think we already have kind of laid out what we thought needed to be looked at last time. And I feel like we just spent another hour, nearly 40 minutes going through almost the same plan with the exception of some street trees and moving the community center to a new location, which is quite arbitrary. So I feel like we need to reinstate the comments and ask the applicant to go back and take a little more time this time to maybe come up with something that might be acceptable to us and address our comments. And frankly, the comments are not anything different than we've been hearing from the communities that surround this development as well. So, that's a good thing because we're all on the same page then. The only one that's not is perhaps the development side here. So with that said, I don't have anything else. Thank you for presenting tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anthony and Nick, I don't think we have anything else on the agenda.
Nothing else on the agenda tonight. It looks like we are going to have 2 items for the next meeting. So that'll be going out shortly, and the agenda will be published shortly for that.
Okay.
But nothing has come in for the following meeting. So stay tuned for additional information about the upcoming projects.
Great. That's on the 23rd, I think. And Nick, I think I sent you an email. I'm not going to be around that evening. So hopefully maybe Bob, if you can attend, maybe you can share.
I think I'm here, yeah.
Okay. That would be great.
Yeah, I'll have the information all put together. It's going out tomorrow morning for you guys. I need confirmation on the postings and stuff, which I now have. So they're all lined up. So there's 2 new projects for the next meeting. It's a Montessori school and a small commercial development on Route 1 in Oak Ridge.
Okay.
Great.
The only other update I'll just mention is that there is the intention to go back to in-person board and commission meetings in August, but we haven't gotten any clear direction yet on exactly if that's happening, when that might happen, or how it might happen, because there's also the intention that they have sort of hybrid engagement, and some of our meeting spaces aren't equipped for that hybrid engagement. So more information to come, certainly by the next meeting, but I just wanted to sort of throw that out there that there was the intention for boards and commissions to come back to in-person meetings, and we're trying to work out the details of how that may or may not happen just yet.
Sounds good. Great. Keep us posted. Thanks, Anthony.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Meeting
Everyone
adjourned.
officially close the meeting, Fred?
Yes, meeting adjourned.
That was fun, Fred.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.